Hello there, my name is Abby Willett, I number I77-08745, and I'm going to discuss the aesthetic visual styles of motion capture and keyframe animation. I'll be using an existing reference and I will try to mimic that reference in keyframe and motion capture whilst discussing the visual output created by both mediums. But before I can discuss these aesthetic qualities, it is very important to understand how they are created because they both have very different processes of creation. Firstly, I want to discuss the animation clip I will be referencing for both mediums. After a lot of consideration, I decided to choose Super Mario's jump animation. I recorded the reference from the game Super Mario Sunshine on Nintendo GameCube. I chose Mario's jump because it's a very iconic movement. It pushes the extremities of an ordinary jump and it is not defined or influenced by laws of gravity. By using this jump, it will provide stronger visual impact when translated into motion capture, simply because a jump of this sort is impossible to replicate one-to-one in real life. Thus will provide a stronger contrast between both motion capture and keyframe animation when comparing their visual styles. Mario's jump as featured in the game was animated using keyframe animation. Keyframe animation is very simple to execute using programs such as Maya. This is because you can create a rigged character which you can pose the joints and key a frame which will lock that specific movement in a 3D space. After you plot the key poses in Maya, it will automatically interpolate the in-between movement, allowing animators to refine the core pose, which can be exaggerated as much as the animator pleases. In order to understand how this unique movement style is captured, I needed to obtain a technical understanding of the medium. Motion capture is a digital representation of an actor which captures subtle behaviour patterns, which are often lost when animators transfer this character movement into keyframe animation. Using a piece of software called Cortex, you firstly have to have a setup of cameras 360 degrees around an actor. You can have as many as you like, but I am using 10. Once that Cortex knows that you're using 10 cameras, it's time to calibrate the cameras using the L system on 1. The L system is an L-shaped bar with trackers which can be placed on the floor, allowing the cameras to track the centre point. Once the L system is calibrated, you use the wand, which is a T-shaped bar, which you wave at the cameras until the boxes light up fully green within a 2-minute time limit. If any of the boxes are not filled, it can lead to a failure in movement recognition, but this technique allows the cameras to detect movement in the X, Y and Z axis of 3-dimensional space. The final calibration stage is to test the calibration with the actor, where you begin and end with the T-pose while in between perform various actions utilising different parts of the body, just to test to see if the software and the trackers are working on the body correctly. Finally, you can hit record and then it will record all the motion footage. As you can see, this process takes a lot of time to get right due to the amount of processes. There's also a lot that can go wrong. For example, if a tracker falls off, you have to re-record the entire motion again. To reduce the amount of potential issues and help speed up the next stage of the process, I made sure to use the default rig in order to keep the animation as streamlined and as easy to clean up as possible, which also leads on to the next stage after exportation, the cleanup. In order to hold the quality of realistic movement, the motion capture records every frame of movement, which means that every frame has to be fixed individually. This can take an extremely long time to fix, and if you're experiencing severe problems with the motion capture, it is often easier to just scrap all your work and start again with new footage. This is by far the longest and most monotonous part of the creation process, which normally makes the results look fantastic, except for the first time I did it. Unfortunately, due to Mario's iconic size and shape, this caused problems with the bipedal motion captured footage, which produced really nasty results and also showed that my weight paint job was far from ideal. So in order to troubleshoot this problem, I had to remodel Mario, which subsequently meant that I had to rig and re-weight paint him again, only this time I tailored the rig to be as close to the motion captured rig from Cortex as possible and used the measuring tool in Maya to make sure that the lengths were as accurate as possible. Comparing the jump animation side by side between keyframing and motion capture animation, there is a very obvious distinct visual style between the two mediums. Because of the nature of keyframe animation creation, the keyframe jump is more accurate to the original reference than the motion capture jump, allowing the keyframe jump to feature a more simplistic, floating, cartoony look, but fails to capture the extreme subtleties such as the head and elbow movements that motion capture can portray. Because motion capture captures the movement realistically, the captured footage has to be feasible by a real person acting out the motion, which concludes to have a much more believable motion, which helps captivate the audience and enhance believability of the actions being viewed on screen. Because of its accuracy to real-life movement, some argue that motion capture over keyframe animation feels like cheating because of its ease to produce, assuming you have the funding to do so. This tears animators and directors apart in their opinions of motion capture. But as good as motion capture can be, if the motion capture is bad, the results will be bad, and it will appear unconvincing and appear faked to an audience, which is very unappealing for a viewer. Overall, the core fundamentals of keyframing and motion capture animation is keyframing is very easy to execute and does not appear realistic because of the way that you can exaggerate the poses and movement, which is perfect for cartoons and even more complex movements such as lip syncing and physical character interaction, whereas motion capture, whilst expensive, produces a very unique motion which perfectly simulates real life.